pre-roll shout out for the exploding epic pop robot rocket punch team. We super appreciate you. Ivan, Grant, Con, Jack, RJ, Tweets, Matthias, Peter, Robert, Kelso, Kevin, Derek, Dom, Nick, Danny, John, Andy, Philippe, Jake, Pete, Ben, Commander Newbie, Hal, Kieran, Jody, and welcoming Chris Regis, Guy Finney, and Nelson to the team. Thank you so very much, guys. Hey, Pop Robots. I hope you're having a really good weekend. I'm working here on my Sunday to get this one done for you. I've actually found doing a video, an edit here on Sundays really works for me because I get to fly into the week with a video already done. So that one is really working for me. Now, panel line scribing, re-scribing in this case, is an important tool for the big book of magic spells because often. With the more complicated kits and say the machining Krieger stuff, and if you get into aircraft building, etc., often when cleaning up the seam lines, as you saw in the previous step, we end up filing off, sending off, somehow getting rid of the panel lines that will be put into the kit. So this is a big one. Now it's very different for those of you coming from the Gunpla background, because I'm now kind of versed in both worlds. I'll try to explain super quick. You've got, in standard modeling, you've got the re-scribing of panel lines because the panel lines aren't really added per detail. To increase the amount of detail, they usually repair to get it back to the way the kit was intended to be, particularly if it's off a real-world subject because the panel line will be representing something that's real. Now, the funny thing is, with Gunpla, Bandai has actually removed a great deal of the need for us to repair both seam lines and panel lines. So what do? We add them ourselves. I mean, that's just the funny thing. So I understand this video will work for both sides coming in to look at this. You could use this technique for doing your own panel line scribing, but I will come back to that when it's necessary at a later date. This one is more coming from the direction that I learned how to do it, which is repairing panel lines. So there's that. I'm also trying something a little bit new for this one in that now rightly so, I've received some critique from the interwebs and I never dismiss it out of hand. Usually when people have something negative to say, it's somehow couched based on truth. And some people have mentioned that I'm a little long-winded in my tutorials, and they're not wrong because I primarily make my tutorial videos for you guys. You guys have told me that you want to see the how, but also the why. Now, Hehe YouTubes doesn't seem so concerned with the why. They just want to know the how. Fine. What I'm going to do with this one is, the first step is to kick out the practical side of the tutorial. Boom, I'll get that out as quickly as possible. Then in the second part that YouTube will not be privy to, I deliver to you guys a behind the scenes look at the more advanced topics and practical applications of panel lining to making your panel line scribing, excuse me, I should be careful with my language, to make your model more interesting for you. And also some quick dirty studio hacks and show you how I get the panel lines around the curved parts, which is way more challenging, and that's something you don't really see much on the Gunpla side. They tend to be panel line scribes on flat panels. This one is re-scribing curved ones, which is really way more difficult. Okay, straight into it. Thanks a bunch, guys. See you soon. Bye. Okay guys, straight into it. As you can see in this photo here, this is the panel line that I need to repair. I need to re-scribe it and put it into place. Here, I've laid some scribing tape over the top, a guide tape. This is the one I'm using, is the 6mm one from Hehe. Hi Hehe parts. Met those guys, friends with them over in Japan. So I have this one, 6mm. I often use this one, but a lot less, 3mm, just for getting into tight places. Okay. It's basically just really thick sticky tape. Make sure it's on there. Now I'm working a little bit back around for the camera for you. Often I'll put a pencil line in there, but the Falke ones, they're pretty thick and bomber. So I'll go straight in. There's two tools that I like to use for this. Either a not so sharp, I just wanted to show you on my bench, I'll usually have two kinds of cutters at any one time. A nice new clean one, which is good for photos too. And then a beat up nasty one. And I like the beat up nasty one for this, that's the truth, because it's not as sharp. The other one I use for this is this one. I think this is also just called a scribing tool from Hasegawa. I'll go with this one. This is the most popular one. The one you'll read about on the interwebs is the back of the X-Acto blade. So instead of going front in like this where it will want to dig in, you flip it backwards so that it can be dragged through. Now again, pedantically, I'm pushing this down all the time, make sure that it's a really good seal against there. Just lining it up, make sure it's pretty close. Starting at one end. Now super important, this is the whole shooting match for me, is no pressure. I just, whoop, instant fail. I let it run across the surface with basically the weight of the knife. Now the reason I laugh too, if you fail by just dragging the blade, you're pretty good because it almost does nothing. It's so soft against the plastic. Now, I felt it kind of bounce a couple of times against the guide plastic, and that's just because I'm not very good. Seriously, I'm the first one to mention this, easily. I'm probably going to mention this 3 or 4 times in this video, bear with me. It's probably one of my worst skill sets. I'd love to have more time to work on it, but people want me to paint and weather things, so here we are. Now switching over to the scribing tool, it's finding the groove pretty well. It's a bit of a, you can feel a little bit of a rough spot in the middle there, but that's basically, it's not too bad. For a Linc panel line scribe, I'd say I'm 80% of my best. In front of a camera, if you guys have filmed your own videos or YouTube tutorial things, you lose easily 50% of skill as soon as you flick that camera on. So you'll know what I mean. Okay, that's stage 1. A couple of very light runs with the scriber. Ooh, ooh. What happens is you'll work a couple of things. If you miss a couple of times in the same spot, you're actually grooving that in. I might have to sand that out afterwards. I'm sorry to show you the wrong thing. Again, this is not like me hand painting something. This is me putting my worst skill on the interwebs. I love doing these tool tutorials because this is how I get all my new interns who put all the hater comments on YouTube. When I do weathering or painting, silence from the interns. The tools, and it's true, I do lots of stuff wrong. Okay, step 1, reasonably complete. Now after a couple of very light runs with the scriber, get a little bit more brave. Now make sure, I'm going to make sure I can show you, make sure you're nice and stable and use your best steady hand and apply just a little bit more pressure. Let's see if I can make a noise that you can hear. Now it sounds funny, but that's what I actually listen for, is the sound, the feedback of the scriber going through the plastic. Now I've seen some really good guys. There's a mate of mine, so Aaron. Hey Aaron Simons. Man, he just zooms through plastic. Scares the heebie-jeeblies out of me when I watch him do it. So I can't go that fast. This is max speed for me. If I go any faster, I can't. There it is. Actually, I did just go a bit faster. Because as you keep running this through, there we go. It's making its own groove. You know that spot where you sit on the sofa, playing Xbox? Boom. That's it. I don't want this seam too pronounced. I don't want to go too deep with this. And this is something I'll discuss in the second part of the video on the strategy of panel lining. In that, yeah, I'll go into that in further detail. I'll keep this nice and short for you. So, there we go. A couple more run-throughs and I'm feeling pretty good. In fact, I was considering if it was going to be more of a major panel line, I would follow up with something like this guy, but I think we're good. I'm going to step back. If there was a lot of leftover plastic in there, I would heal some of the line with this, but I think we're good. But I will show you one more quick thing, and then really quick, now you can do this either with the guide tape in place or without. I'm going to leave it in just to show you. Now this is a, what size are we? 0.5 millimeter plasma rifle, excuse me, click pencil, mechanical pencil. Sorry, I'm struggling because in Japanese it's called sharp, because it's always sharp. Mechanical pencil, right, from Daiso, of course. There's nothing in my house. We're such weebs. Nothing in our house is not Japanese. And I'm just going to reconfirm that it's nice and straight. I'm chucking a bit of carbon in here for you. There we go. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. Tape off, and you should be good to rock and roll. That's a panel line put in. Like that. Done. Okay, rocking on to the second part of the video. I'm going to talk about strategies for using these panel lines to accentuate your model and highlight certain areas and details with it. Let's get into that now. Hey, Pop Robot Army, thank you for being the awesome people that support this and are still here for the second part. There's a lot more to panel lining. I'm not the one to be showing this to you. I'm gonna mention this up front early on, just to give you an idea. If you're more of a building person and you're really good at detailing and doing these things, don't beat yourself up about paint. And likewise, vice versa, if you're a person who particularly likes the painting aspects of modeling, don't beat yourself up about the builds. The reason I mention that is because I'm mediocre to maybe, good, reasonable intermediate at building, because painting is my thing. The painting speaks to me. And so the person who made this pattern, for example, Seto-san, on the Machining Krieger team, fantastic pattern maker. And I was marveling at his detail here in the panel lining, which I will just never have that level of skill. And the main reason being, of course, is because it doesn't interest me. I'll be perfectly frank about it. However, also, Seto-san, from my point of view, he's not a very good painter. He's like a good intermediate, and we would laugh about this together, that if we could combine our skills, we would become a supermodeler. But that's just the thing. I think it's just how we're made up, or the way we're interested. You will tend towards one side or the other. So I gave you that just I don't want you to beat yourself up either. I won't be, on subsequent builds going on for the rest of the year, I won't be putting as much focus on the build aspects of them, because there's probably better teachers out there than me. But also, having said that though, I might actually be a better teacher than some of those people, because they're quite good at it. They don't know how to teach it, and because the build aspects they can be a struggle for me, like panel line scribing, for example. Maybe I'm a great teacher because I could help those of you who are not super inclined that way either. Okay, sorry, that was long, but I thought it was an interesting thing to just mention to you. Now, in talking about that, I wanted to give you two things in the second part of the video, and that would be quick dirty tips for actually getting it done, like how I would get some of the props ready, and the second one would be also like a strategy for how you can use the panel lining to accentuate certain parts of the model. I was studying some close-up photos, reasonably good high-res photos of a Spitfire and a Hawker Tempest, and I can see that Seto-san has done some of it. Some of you, we might be able to share some photos in Discord channel. John Bias, you've probably got some reference photos like this, mate, that you could show us that would be even better than mine. But you can see in some places, you won't be able to see it, I think the video camera won't pick this up, but in some of the places where the panels meet, the panel lines are wider or thicker or deeper. Now, as plastic modelers, I understand my thinking was at many times wrong in that I was focused on the panel lines. But of course, what the panel lines are there to represent is how the panels fit together. Now, that was a paradigm shift for me. Somebody out there might also have just had that little, oh yeah, moment. If you are, welcome to the Linc Club. But for the rest of you, it's probably just, yeah, of course, Linc. So, with that idea in mind, though, I want to add that as an additional detail point to this Falke build. Now, I'm mentioning this because this might be the start of a fantastic epic fail that we can all laugh at soon. For example, here's a recent example of an epic fail. I wanted to add some imperfections to the cockpit detail of the Falke. Here's a close-up of what I've done. Now, there's some inadvertent mistakes in there that I didn't realize I was adding more imperfections. I got some of the dials wrong. I've not seen them blown up before like this. And I don't work with a magnifier. It might be something I need to do if I get into doing more cockpit type work. But the main thing I want to draw your attention to is the right side here. I've cut up the decal here because it fits perfectly. This would be my fourth cockpit for the Falke, and I'm well aware, after doing it 3 times previously, that this decal fits perfectly around this detail. It's like the big red button that Father Dougal must resist in Father Ted. Now, I wanted it to look like tape. So why would the ground crew have an exact matching cutout tape for this detail? It doesn't make sense to me. So I saw this as an opportunity to cut it into 4 pieces and place it ever so slightly askew around the button to make it look like it had been marked off with a roll of tape that the ground crew would have for marking off certain details like this. Of course, I shared that to the wonderful platform that is Facebook, and I got such well-informed comments like, I found that this decal conforms around this detail perfectly. It pains me that I have to explain that level of my art, that dear sir, I went to a lot of trouble to give it the apparent look of haphazardry to increase your joy in the suspension of disbelief and making this look more realistic for you. But instead I got schooled on model making by someone with not much experience. So that happens. Bringing that to what I planned for this is that based on some of these details, I want to attempt and fail at making some deeper than others to give the illusion that some of the panels may be either further apart or there's some inconsistencies in the build of the actual hull pieces in the armor during its manufacturing process. And to also try to add to the illusion of weight, because there's going to be extra armor pieces fitted to this. There's going to be more metallics used. I want this to look like the heaviest Falke I've made to date. So that's the reason. I don't know if the shadow is showing you quite well here. These are much thicker than some of the other ones around here, for example. And this is something I'm going to experiment with now. It might be a fail, but I want to give you a heads up early. And if it's something that works, it's something we can all use in the future. If it's a fail, we can giggle, move on, and test something else. Now, another actual studio tip, ready? Now that I got all that out of the way, I thought that was important. That's something that it excites me about working on the panel lines, so I thought it could be something cool for you too. If you see these panel lines here, they're a little rough because this technique doesn't work for these, unless you're much better with the tape than I am. Because as you'll find, they're not a perfect curve. They're a highly, there we go. Actually, that's not too bad this time. I'm kind of lying, aren't I? But the curve is brutal to get tape around. That's actually not too bad. But see how it doesn't, you've got to keep twisting it. Man, it's so hard to get right. So you either have to do it in sections, which I didn't want to put into the tutorial video, or, you ready? Here's the quick, dirty studio method. We would get our X-Acto blades. There's a certain chunk here that's not matched up right. So what I do is, I'm going to line it up so I don't make it wrong. Can you see it's lined up here? Mm. What I do is I extend my blade so it's long enough and get part of it into the groove there, line her up, roll it around. Now, that may be standard. We all did this when I saw the other dudes doing it. I was like, dude, that's so cool. It reminds me when I used to do some work cutting copper tubing as a kid. Yeah, like that. Check it out. Boom. And then that drops it around, and you can see that's almost in place now. And I'll give it one more go. And then you're actually putting it in with the blade before the scriber. Maybe I should have shown that. I was scared. Because this is not a Linc super skill like the painting, I'm scared of putting these tool type things on Hehe YouTubes because the people beat me up there unmercifully. So I was scared of doing it. Actually, that actually looks all right, doesn't it? And then what I'll do is I'll do some a couple of runs with this to make it conform, and then boom, that will be that. That's a really quick and dirty stagio version. Stagio version. 超日本語ベリバだよ. I'm going to do another one here for you, just because that was really fun to do. And line her up. Boom. Now, they won't be my best work. They won't be GBWC level, but it's a Falke frontline combat vehicle. It's supposed to be a bit beat up. If you make these too clean, I've seen some very clean and precise builders make Falke, and they don't come to life. Falke is meant to be beat up. Yokoyama-san is the artist at doing that. Boom, they're already in place. Now I'll just clean them up. Is that one more I got to do in? Yeah, let's do it again. How much value is this? I think all kinds of... These don't even match up, top and bottom. Oh, hopefully that detail goes in between them. There's some... Yeah, they don't even match up. So I'm going to leave that as possible. Because I know there's more details we've got to put across the top here. But yeah, this is easily probably the worst part of this poor kit, is making these parts just serviceable. Here we go. Okay, cool. I'm going to get to work and finish all of this up, but that's the best one. Oh yeah, and I've placed these in. I didn't think it was, I couldn't get that into a video for you, but that's the replaced pieces done with 0.5mm plastic card. If you want a leaner look that's more like the original Falke, I'd use 0.3. I used 0.5 there, because again, all fitting with this heavier theme, heavier, upgraded, up-armored Falke. Okay guys, I think that's long enough. I've really got to get back to work. Talk soon. See ya. Bye. Big thanks to Hobbyco and the visionary Ryan San Pedro for bringing the Japanese hobby to us locally. And of course, the Brobot Inner Circle, the awesome folks that make this happen. I couldn't do it without you. Always, thank you so very much. Please join us.